And did you know, because clearly we've pinged a special interest,
Right?
did you know that actually I think it was the spinning bees that they had in the pre-Revolutionary War era were acts of resistance because the women were no longer buying cloth fabric from Great Britain, and so they had to spin their own yarn, and that was how they did it.
Yes.
And they would do it as a social gathering where they would also share information about what was going on.
I love it. I think that's so, so cool. And like in almost every type of textile or like fiber art or whatever the craft was, whether it like whatever I hate calling it a craft because it sounds so like it
Dismissive.
sounds so trad wife with a scrapbook, right? Like it just sounds like, and like if you like scrapbooking, I mean, I have my own journals that I love putting the things in, but like it doesn't necessarily sound like something that has a practical use for decades and decades to come, right? Like I'm sure I, I'm going to
And
offend
there's
somebody in
stories
the scrapbook community, but but when you talk
like,
about like fiber and
yep.
sewing in, codes or quilting and things that are, like indicating where to go for the Underground Railroad, like that stuff I just find so, so interesting.
And there
But,
was a huge movement in like England during World War II, I think it was, or France. And they would actually code messages into socks.
oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
And like
Because nobody
that's,
would expect, they could hear people talking outside their windows and stuff, so they would sit there and they would knit them into the socks and then send the socks off because nobody would ever suspect a woman knitting to be doing espionage.
right. Oh, I think that stuff is so cool. Well, the funny thing that I was going to share with you about my resistance yarn, that's what I'm calling it, is that I decided this morning that I was going to do this, but this wasn't caked yet. And so for those who aren't in the like, bougie fiber yarn world, this is a hand dyed yarn that was hand dyed in Nebraska, by the way. I wanted to share that. I did see that on their little thing, hand dyed in Nebraska. And if you're looking for them, Cozy Cauldron Fiber Co. on all the socials. But and so I was like, oh my gosh, I got it. They come in some people call them hanks. But basically it's a big twisted skein of yarn. And I'm saying this like you don't know. This is for people listening. And so like of course, you have to cake it before you can use it. And so like these hanks are such like I tried to like, so for people who don't know, like it's kind of a process to like ball some of this yarn. Now if you don't have all of the tools to make it easy, people say that you can, put it around the back of a chair and you have to, because it comes out where it's like this
Like a big
big.
circle.
It's a big huge circle of
Circle of yarn.
yarn. And so I have a yarn winder, and I have an electric yarn winder, and I love that thing, but I didn't want to have to lug out the what do you call that the
Oh, it starts with a W too.
yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
big
I know what you're talking
it's
about.
like
It
a
looks like
big
a big
wheel.
umbrella.
Yeah, like a big umbrella without the umbrella part that shields you. Anyways, I didn't feel like pulling that out, so I was holding it myself and I was doing the thing where it loops, and then it caught a bunch of yarn that kind of fell off and I had a whole big mess. So my resistance yarn was resisting being caked this morning, and this is only half of the hank. So anybody looking at it, I got another half of it downstairs. So they really do send a lot. It's just that um my resistance yarn was resisting, and I had to I
And
had
if
to
we're giving
respect that.
shout outs to
Mhm.
small businesses, my shirt, which I'll show you guys again, I love this shirt, is from a company, a queer owned company called, I think it's pronounced Flaunt, but it's spelled FLAVNT.com. They were one of the businesses, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, I probably shouldn't say this on a recording, but I'm 98% sure I started following them a few years ago when Target pulled a bunch of
Ah,
contracts
yeah.
during Pride Month. And so they're actually giving, I believe, most or all of the proceeds above the profit for these shirts to charity.
Oh,
So
nice. So yeah, very cool. Well, I guess we could do our intro real quick since
I
we've
guess we
already
could.
been talking. Poor Eddie's gonna have more editing than normal today. He's gonna be like, hold up, I gotta pull this over here. So welcome everybody to our next episode of the HackerHaus podcast. Today I'm so excited because I have one of my absolute best friends that I met through the hacker world, and she is one of those people that I just absolutely completely adore, and ride or die.
Same.
What's that?
Same. You are.
Samesies. So my very good friend Karen Walsh, and Karen does one of the things I think that is like so underrealized in our cyber community. Karen, I'll let you kind of do your background, but yeah, Karen does writing and like marketing. You tell me what do you do? How would you describe it?
So, what I like to describe it as is translating technical information into marketing content. I technically write mostly like corporate blogs for cybersecurity
Thank
companies,
you, technical.
and I do white papers and stuff. But I feel like one of the things that's not always recognized in that marketing part from people who are in the industry is for it to be good, you have to have at least enough information and knowledge to be dangerous.
Yes. I agree. People don't understand like how difficult it is to understand enough in a tech space to be able to write about it.
And my background, just in case anybody cares. Um, so my 15-second elevator pitch for who I am is that I graduated from college. I started working in insurance. They were willing to pay for a law degree, so I went to law school while working full time, and I did law school at night. It was miserable. If you want to be talked out of law school, I am the person to talk to. I completed law school. I passed the bar. I was working with attorneys and didn't really want to be one of them because they were not my people. I ended up in compliance. I did internal audits for banks, and I did contracted compliance manager work for about 12 years. I taught first year college writing, which is a lot more difficult than you would think because you have to be able to explain like the thought process
Yeah.
behind how the writing works. And then I ended up accidentally in InfoSec because I had compliance and law background, and here I am. I do just corporate blogs, and it's great. It's not changing the world, but
I don't know.
makes so much more money than teaching did that, yeah, I discovered I liked money.
Yeah. I well, and so like one of the things I wanted to bring up too is so you do your stuff primarily on your own freelancing. So if people are interested and they're looking for a well-seasoned technical writer, they can always hit you up, and we'll make sure that we have like your linked stuff somewhere. But oh, I just ADHD'd away from my thought. So
That's fine. I'm the autism to your ADHD. We got you. We got
I
you.
love you so much. That's so funny. So yeah, so I'm curious. Of course, I have some insight, but tell me your thoughts on people utilizing AI for their writing purposes on the stuff that they do.
You can tell the minute you read it, and it's not just the M dash. Just
The can I say the M dash is like come on you guys. Like I get that some places, if you are a one-man shop and you absolutely cannot afford for somebody to do your own writing, number one, I think you can tell, right? Like it isn't as elevated as somebody who's professional. And if you're willing to take that, whatever. But the thing is that like, can we at least it's not supposed to replace a person. It is
no.
supposed to enhance what you're already doing. So like I like using it for creating outlines for blogs that I write.
Yep.
So like because it helps keep me more organized. But it's still it's still my words, right? And even if like, yeah, the M dash is just like, it's so obvious that I wonder why people don't go in there and like take 5 seconds and remove those and just
Yep.
like
And
tidy up the words a bit.
here's the other thing. I feel as though there's a certain tone that almost all of the AIs use. And I texted a friend this morning. I'm like, are you using AI to write your LinkedIn posts? And the person was like, maybe.
Uh-huh.
Which, again, I get it in some cases, like, especially if you don't see yourself as a writer. But, like, if it doesn't sound like your voice,
Yes.
people are going to notice, especially people who talk to you, because when you write the way you speak, it's fine. I spent so many years trying to explain to students, no, you don't have to use the big words. The big vocabulary doesn't actually make you a better writer. I had one kid, I will never forget this. This is like my story. He did not want to be in a writing class, but it was a required course for all the kids at the university.
Gotcha.
And so he had like an attitude about being in this class. I'm like, that's fine. Like, I mean, you got to take it and you got to pass it. So, and he would put things in and put words in that didn't make sense. And one of the essays he wanted to write, I shouldn't say he wanted to write, he wrote, "Women are the catheter of life."
I have so many questions.
So, like, because I had had issues with this student, and I had told him not to just, use big words, I'm like, I think the word you want is catalyst. I can also tell you no one wants to be a urine tube. And he got so mad. And I was like, my guy, like, that's not what that word means. I'm like, go to dictionary.com. There's a whole world of information on the internet.
How are you going to argue with your writing teacher on the word, what a word means? Like, regardless of the fact that that's a word that I think most people know what it means, but like, that's just funny that somebody would argue with you on that.
Yeah, he had to stick up his butt.
So what are your other pet peeves when it comes to like writing and technical writing?
It's funny because I think the one thing I learned from teaching was this. No one is inherently a bad writer. They haven't been taught well.
Okay. So it's a skill.
It's not hard to be a writer. It is hard to be a really, really good writer. But
Okay.
anyone can be a writer. I think the part that gets me the most is that people focus way too much on grammar. And I'm going to put in the lesson I learned from teaching is grammar is a social construct, right? You look at people and you see if they're educated or not. And there's a lot of issues to me around most grammar rules and following them.
Yeah.
There are a few. I will die on the hill of my Oxford serial comma because it changes the meaning. The only grammar that should really matter is grammar that changes how somebody understands what you're writing. The whole point of writing is to communicate an idea. And you can do it effectively without sounding like a pretentious asshole. I don't know. Do we bleep things out in the podcast?
Mm. I don't think so. I think we just we're our company is called HackerHaus, and I don't know if you saw our latest stickers that that Eddie put together for us, but they are resistance stickers that look like what do you call it, skateboards,
Yes.
and we have the Anarchy A in part of the HackerHaus on the sticker. It's fabulous.
I need.
So yeah, so no, we're okay. You can
Okay.
you can say bad words.
Okay. So I feel like what ends up happening a lot of times is people think that they can't sound like themselves.
Right.
And you just sound like a different version of yourself. You don't have to use big words just because you think that's what people want to see to make you look intelligent or educated.
I would, what about this? Different
Mhm.
perspective. What if it is more that people are too insecure with the way that they sound
I was
and
gonna say that's the other one is unconfident.
yeah.
I don't think it's, I like to use the word unconfident because you can build confidence.
Mhm.
And I think if you have someone who understands how to explain writing, you can do it easily. It's very formulaic. There's a lot of ways to make writing formulaic. And too often, I think teachers don't know how to explain the way you think through things and the logic that you have to go and the process. They say do the process, but they don't know how to walk you through the process. And I think that's the problem. I think you can be confident if you can figure out how to find a repeatable approach to doing it. And I did actually find that. I had students who would come back to me and be like, Professor Walsh, that that worksheet you gave me, I used it all through college. I'm like,
Oh,
that's
it's
why I
so
gave it to
cool.
you.
I want that worksheet.
I'll give you the worksheet for
Oh,
free.
thank you. So let me ask you, because I feel like you had mentioned like making it sound like yourself, and I feel like sometimes people forget that um, that people actually would prefer you to sound like you, right? Like when I read something, when I listen to something, when I watch something, when I go to a presentation and somebody just gives me the information that they are trying to throw out there, I am going to be bored.
Mhm.
I'm not there to hear somebody say, and then if you go to the next page you will see that the way that we design that's so no, I don't want that. Like I need somebody who's engaging that I can listen to.
Yep.
And like I have been in boring topics with amazing teachers that have kept my interest in things that nobody would you wouldn't expect. And so I think like it's a, like for me when people are writing however they choose to figure it out, sound like you. Sound
Yep.
like you, be you. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from my first InfoSec boss who told me when he came across my Twitter page and I freaked out thinking, did I say anything I shouldn't have? I hadn't, it was fine. But he said he actually came a couple of days later and was like, hey, I saw your Twitter. And we had this whole funny exchange because he was like, I accidentally followed you and then I unfollowed you because I didn't want you to be like freaked out that your boss followed you. But then I followed you back because I figured you probably saw that I followed you. Like it was so funny. Like we both overthought this whole thing because the day he followed me, I was out sick with strep throat. And so like I remember like waking up, I was sleeping on the couch and I remember waking up
I
looking at
remember
my
this, I
phone. Do you?
think. You were
I
talking
looked
to
at
me
my
about it. You didn't
phone.
know what to do.
I looked at my phone and I was like, oh my God. Because I was like, oh my gosh, should I delete my account? It was so funny. But he said to me, he said, he said, keep being you.
Yep.
And he was like, don't stop being you because like I follow you or whatever. He's like, because you know your stuff is good and whatever. And that's something that like over the years as we created HackerHaus,
Yep.
even trying to decide like what did I want to name our company, and like we call our house HackerHaus, and so it's very much a part of our identity and who we are,
Mhm.
and it speaks to the community that we
Yep.
appreciate and that we came from. And so as we've gone through things and as I write things and I do things and I think of like how am I gonna dress, how am I gonna look, like and
Mhm.
um i I always come back to what he said, which was be yourself.
Yep.
And I had another boss some years before that who would always tell me like keep doing what you're doing, regardless of the haters and those who tried to derail me and my career. And so like I think being authentic and being yourself is like one of the most important things that any of us can do in life.
And I think you can be, depending on what you're writing,
uh,
you can be more or less formal in what you say and how you say it.
yeah.
I am on a chaos gremlin mission this year on my LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I am very excited about this journey for me. I am a chaotic good chaos gremlin. Um, but when I write content for companies, it's a lot more third person formal. But
Oh
that doesn't
yeah.
mean but that doesn't mean that my tone of voice is going to entirely change. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to sound like myself. It means like I sound like myself as I would if I were giving a presentation.
Gotcha.
Right? So I still use you can probably see certain markers in the words that I use because they're ones that I would use in conversation. So, what's a good example? So in what was something I changed the other day? I was looking at something and I use AI to help me because we were talking about this earlier, do research. So am I the most technical person? No. I'm just technical enough to know that something isn't technical enough,
Uh-huh.
right? Or I'm just technical enough to know that I want to give more depth to something because the answer I got wherever was too high level for me. And I looked at it and I think
Gotcha.
it
Yeah.
used the word no, I use prioritize. I use some word and I looked at it, I'm like, that's not a word I would ever use in my language.
Right.
I don't use that. And I think I changed whatever it was like to prioritize, right? Because prioritize is something you'll see in my writing because it's a word that I use regularly. Or I was talking to a client a couple of weeks ago and I've been copy editing something and there was a word in it that I can't remember what it was. I think, oh, there was a word in it that the original writer had used, and it was definitely not a word I would ever use. I keep most of my language and my content for like a ninth grade reading level because most people want to understand something quickly,
Yep.
especially on the internet because they read differently on the internet. There's a
Yeah.
whole list of research around that. Like, we could go into a whole episode on just how people cognate differently when they're reading information digitally. And
That's
so I don't
interesting.
want it to be challenging. Like, I don't want you to have to think too hard to understand what I'm trying to say. So I use sophisticated words, but I try not to use too many of them and I try to keep it pretty much readable. And this one thing wasn't, and my client looks at me and goes, the original writer used that word, didn't they? Because that's not something I've ever seen in any of your writing. I was like, yeah, it wasn't
Oh,
me.
that's so funny. So, do you do a lot of like redoing other people's content? Is that
Not
what you meant?
usually. Yeah, I was just editing a white paper for
Oh,
someone,
gotcha. You
and so
said
I
that.
was looking through to make sure that it was like readable and it made sense. And sometimes you want someone to come in and be like, "Does this make sense? Is there a gap here? Would
Yeah,
somebody else understand what I'm saying?"
very cool.
But
So I did want to ask you, one of the
yeah,
things that I have been kind of like, I don't know if obsessing over is the right word, but like I've been really wanting to promote, and I am still in the beginning stages of even just kind of like figuring out all of our ways to do this. But something, obviously we've all noticed that the job market right now sucks. And we have so many of our talented colleagues that are out of jobs because of Wave's hand at the world.
yep,
And so, I'm seeing a lot more people that are just desperate on LinkedIn
yep,
who are saying, give me anything. And it's such a hard place to be, but and I think like a lot of us have been there, and we've looked at either starting
yep,
our own business or doing like a freelance business. I mean, I guess that's kind of both in the same. You're still starting a business. But I really like kind of the shift I've seen of quite a few of our friends moving to starting their own businesses and working for themselves. For me personally, um, I drew a lot of my inspiration and my determination to do this from you.
aw,
You did it before me. You did it 5 years prior, and I had another professional female that I could look at that I had watched go through it and work your way through things and get to a place where you were happier where you are now than where you were before, even before, before you were laid off. And like, that's always like that layoff thing, I think for
That's right.
some
You were on the
people.
layoff call that night. You were one
I
of like the five
was.
people that were my ride or dies that night. So I was laid off. For anybody out there, I had worked full time. I was laid off in September of 2020, which prime pandemic, not a lot of jobs out there.
Nope.
Um, for the most part, up until I took that job, I was there for about 18 months. Up until I took that job, I'd been doing different types of consulting and contract work. So I'd always kind of been a little bit more independent. Um, I'd sort of already learned certain things about being a contract worker. And I just needed work real quickly because I had
And
no
bills.
money.
Yeah. Bills.
And so I went back to what I know, which is writing. I have very few skills, but writing is pretty much it, and that's fine. I don't mind being a one-trick pony. Um, and so I was putting out feelers and getting people initially. Um, and it's funny because I love freelancing. I love being my own boss. I am not good at meetings. In fact, any of my clients will know that my meeting hourly rate is ridiculous, and it is intended as a disincentive to have meetings. Um, I charge like 130 per hour because I don't want to be on a meeting.
Yeah.
And if you're going to make me be on a meeting that could have been an email, you're going to be paying me for it.
For real.
Um, and I think going back into freelancing and really saying, okay, I'm just gonna go down this road. This is it. I'd been looking at jobs. I was getting we like you butts. But I kept getting content writing work on the side, and I hit the 3 month mark when I got laid off. I said to myself, I'm getting myself 3 months, and we're gonna do both things. Because the first month of freelancing, you're doing. I should say this for me. The first month of freelancing, I don't charge up front. I only charge once I provide a deliverable. Some people do like a 50% up front and 50% on delivery. That was just not a model I'd ever used, for whatever reason. And now that I have it, it's like same reason. Like I'm just dumb and haven't like changed how I do it. Um, so the first month was no income. The second month was waiting for the payments for the first month. And then the third month was really like that 90-day mark is where you have sort of a consistent income coming in. And I said, okay, like at the end of December, I've got to make a decision because I can't keep taking on new clients while still looking for a job. And I was making good money. I was happy with the money I was making. I was like, you know what? This is good. I'll just keep doing this. And my business model doesn't work for everyone. And I think that's one of the things people have to figure out for themselves, even before they start, what they want their business model to be. Um, I can say this because I've had friends say this to me. I specifically keep my rates a little bit lower than writing average in the industry because I like working with startups. And if I'm charging $1,000, I it's hard to get a startup
Yeah, you price a startup right out.
right.
Yeah.
So a lot of my content is less expensive. I'm very transparent about my prices because I'm lazy. So my website is basically a business card. It's
Yeah.
got a link to my Calendly and it's got a link to my rates. And before I talk to anybody, I'm like, here, check out my rates and check out, the time available on my calendar. And, if it works for you, it works for you.
Yeah.
Um, I realized after about let me back up. So I'd been growing things. 2020 goes, I'm getting more clients, and 2021 and 2022, I'm pretty much stable. I was working with a marketing firm, and at the time, I was really thinking that what I wanted to do is expand and have employees and just be like the CEO of the firm.
Gotcha.
And then Silicon Valley Bank imploded.
Oh,
And when that imploded, a lot of the funding for the startups that I was working with imploded. And one of the first things that companies do is they get rid of contract workers. And it was at that point where I watched some marketing firms have to go through layoffs. And I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to be responsible for someone else's livelihood.
Absolutely.
And that was around the time I was like, while I would love to like just be the person who does strategy and hangs out and like takes meetings, actually, I really like not having responsibility.
I so feel that.
And I said, and I tell people like my entire business model is this. You tell me what you want. I give you the thing. You give me the money for the thing.
Right. Very simple.
And there's very little stress in marketing, which I love.
Yeah.
I mean, don't tell marketers, but like, I can't really think of too many things that are actually a marketing emergency.
Right. Yeah. I think it's interesting because like the perspective definitely from like, if you are the person who is wanting to see like uh input or growth from your marketing efforts, especially if you're not somebody who understands marketing, that can be stressful.
Yep.
But yeah.
But like the actual day to day, the only time I can say that you legitimately have a marketing emergency is if you are the company that just got breached and you have to get your crisis comms working.
Yeah.
Other than that, like your week to week blogs, your white papers.
Right. It's just
like,
yeah.
It can come on a Thursday, it can come on a Monday. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It really doesn't.
That's so funny. Well, and so for people who are, not in the writing space, there are still like, a lot of other areas to freelance in. And, your particular, your set of things that you're doing, isn't the only thing out there. So it's something for people to consider and look into
and even when you and I were talking, when you were transitioning, I said, look at the things that you like to do and that you're good at. Like we usually like to do things we're good at, right? Yep. And I think the thing to think about, regardless of what area of work it is, what do people not need a full-time employee for? So like if you're thinking about when you're thinking about your rates, the same thing goes true. If somebody is hiring a full-time employee, that's a full salary, it's benefits, it's other compensation packages. Even working at a full-time schedule, being a contract employee means they don't have to do things like put into a 401k, pay for medical benefits, support that. And those are things that businesses don't necessarily want to or have the funds to pay for. So what can you bring to the table that they need, but they don't need 40 hours a week of? And blog writing for me is one of those things. Like you don't need 40 hours of me writing blogs and white papers. You need like 4 blogs a month that I can probably kick out in a couple of hours, right? So that's why for me that model works. For you, it's the VC right? Like a smaller org needs to have someone who understands their security, but they may not be an organization that needs that person 40 hours a week, 12 months a year.
Right, exactly. Especially smaller organizations, that don't have somebody that has that knowledge and experience to be able to work through that stuff with them. Yeah, definitely. And I think like, you brought up benefits, and I think that's a good point, right? Because like there's always the issue of insurance if you're living in the States, and those types of benefits, and that is definitely a very real concern because insurance is not cheap. And if you are capable of doing that, then that obviously really helps. And
I have to admit that I'm very privileged. My husband has worked for the same company for 20 something years, so we have benefits through him. So like I don't have to worry about that. But even my friends who have to pay for their own insurance, they still do fine.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily optimal, but it's doable.
it is. That's a really good way to put it. It's not optimal, but it's doable. We we have we do like out of pocket TRICARE, which is it is a really good plan. Well, I say really good. It's a good plan. Um but
It's an
it's
it's
but
as
it's
acceptable of a plan as you're going to get in the United States in the year of our spaghetti monster 2026.
very, yes, but it's, well, it's, you can get better, but you're gonna pay more. We're paying
Right.
about the cheapest you can for something off of the marketplace.
Right.
It's not technically off the marketplace because they're childcare, but just because of what our situation is, we don't get it for free until we retire. Um, but yeah, and so like having that insight of like I've been
Yep.
out there on the marketplace looking to see you know, how much all of that stuff costs, um and it is not, it's definitely not cheap, and so that's something for people to think about. However, I say that to say that you know, there are days that I really 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 want to go just work for somebody else and not have to make all the
Right.
decisions. But I honestly think that's a lot of that is my where I am in life right now. You know, I'm of the age that the hormones are changing, and so like sometimes things, decisions and whatnot, are a little bit more difficult. My ADHD is like, "Wah." And so you know, just like stresses of life, and you know, special needs child, like those things sometimes make you just go, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. But then on the days that like I like today, I'm gonna leave in a couple of hours and I'm gonna go pick my kid up from school, because the bus has effed us over yet
Again?
again. And yeah. And we fought on Monday, and then yesterday
Oh,
they
you
came
didn't
to the
tell me that.
house. I know, yeah, yesterday they came to the house and came with fight in their hearts, and so we ended up firing them. And so right now I'm driving him for just a, luckily the school totally was on board. We finally have a really good team at my son's school, but and they're on board, and they were like, nope, you're good, we will find you another transport company. um and so that's all working out. But you know, like the initial like, okay, well now I have to leave right now and go take him to
Yep.
school because I can't put him on to a place that's unsafe, right? And so like I have the luxury to be
Yep.
able to make decisions that are best for my child and for myself that
Yep.
I would not have been able to do before. Like before I would have had to have stressed out. And even though the team that I worked with was a great team for the most part, and like, you know, my leadership for the most part was really awesome, and they were really understanding. And so like if things like that came up, it was not something that I had to worry about. Now my past leadership was crap, and that would have been an issue where they would have been like, I don't really care, why aren't you at work? And so like, and I still hold a lot of that work trauma. But like, you know, I would worry, you know, even at my previous employer, because then it's also like, am I going to get my work done? Am I going to get all the things done that are expected of me? And now when something comes up, I just take care of my son,
Mhm.
and I know what work I have to do. I know what I need to get done, and there is no timetable. If I am not feeling well in the middle of the day, I will take a nap on that giant beanbag chair behind me. If I, you know, if I'm just like, I'm not feeling it one day, I can take that day and give it to myself in the way that I need to. And so like while I feel like I work more than I did, sometimes I work more than I did, sometimes I work less. I just have to get the things done that I have to get done, right?
Yes.
And being able to have that that flexibility to take
Yep.
care of my son as I need to. You know, often days if I absolutely don't have to work super late, then I won't. And when my son gets home from school, then we spend time together, and that's what we do. And we, you know, it's not oh, I have to work, because what I have found is, and something for people who are like out there struggling, trying to determine what do I do next? What's my next step? And if they're considering even like part-time freelance work, like, you know, being able to kind of not, I don't know how, like the best way to explain that, you do less work when you work for yourself because you're doing the work that you're being paid to do. And when you are working
Yes.
for somebody else,
You're
you're
doing
doing the
extra
work.
work on top of just the job.
Right. You're doing the work that they're paying you to do, not the work that they are getting paid for. So, like, they're getting paid for your work more than what you get paid for your work because they have overhead, right? There's
And
all the
also
things we
think
talked
of
about
all
before.
of the other things that go in a job, like the meetings and the balancing the corporate politics and all of those different things that are work, but are like invisible work within the
Yeah.
workforce. You don't get that. Now, the flip side of the flexibility is also if you are someone who grew up where productivity is how you defined your existence, like some people on this call who aren't Ushi. Um, I wouldn't know who those are that aren't Ush
I
on
don't know what
this
you mean by aren't
call.
Ushi because I grew up with that too. So,
It's hard to not overcommit yourself. For the first 4 years of doing freelance, I just said yes to everything because
mhm.
the one thing to know is any of my clients can say, you know what, we don't really need this anymore. And again, that's fine. It happens. It's part of doing what I do.
Yep.
It's why I try to keep a fairly diversified client portfolio instead of relying on any single client for too much because I've done that too. And then when they don't need the external support or they choose to bring it in house, all of a sudden they're poof gone. So like I don't want any single client to be all of my money.
Right.
Um but also I was taking everything just because I wanted to make a certain amount per month.
Right.
And because of who I am, that was how I set my goals. It
Yeah.
was I want to make 10K per month. And then once I was doing that consistently, I was like, all right, bet. Let's go for 12. And I was like, bet. And then I was like, and I was taking on so much work just to hit those weird billable minimums that I'd put in my head that it was less relaxing in a lot of ways because then I was scheduling every single work day. I was scheduling work for every work day of the month and I didn't have dedicated time off. And without dedicated time off, that means you have to squish work in
Yeah.
to accommodate any time you want to take off because you don't get paid
Right.
if you don't provide deliverables. And that's the flip side of the whole freelance coin, right? It's like when you're in house, you get PTO
Right.
and you go to take a week vacation and you get paid the same way.
Right. Now, I will say for others listening in, that's because that's your business model where some of our stuff is retainer based. And so that gives us a little bit of flexibility when it comes to, like the time that we're taking off
Yep.
and the hours, because I may be, contracted for 10-40 hours a month. And so that's obviously not 40 hours a week. And but yeah, that's a good point because I feel like we're still pretty much in the yes phase of things
Oh yeah.
and and I think that's very typical of like startups as well, right? Like you just do whatever you can that's going to bring in money to pay the bills and then you start
Oh,
kind of like
absolutely, absolutely.
scaling back from there.
And I think it takes a good year or two before you get to the point where you're like, okay, these are like I have clients that I've had for 5 years. I am onboarding some new clients this month because others were like, we need to take stuff in house. I had one, and they can go at any minute, and that is the other part of it, right?
Yeah.
Your contracts are different because of what you do, but mine pretty much have like a 30-day termination.
Yeah.
If that, sometimes people don't even do that. And that's, again, it's fine. It's part of doing the freelancing business. But all of a sudden, you go from like 5 clients to 3.
Yeah.
And so what was stable isn't. And then you have to hustle again. And
Yeah.
once you're out of the hustle phase, it's so hard to get back in it.
Right.
I hate the hustle phase.
Yeah, I don't mind the hustle phase so much as I don't like the confusion phase because I feel like that's hard for some people to, especially for me, to figure out kind of like, some of those pipelines
Yep.
for
Yep.
getting in new clients.
How long do you wait between like intro call and follow up? And when you know, especially with startups like that they just got funding, like, and they're doing stuff on their end, like how much is too annoying?
Yeah.
How much is like, don't forget about me? Mm.
Yeah. Ugh. Well, I think we are starting to close in on our time. Is there anything I want to know? Like, are you working on anything like personally or professionally that you're really excited about now that we want to promote?
Well, professionally, I am speaking this into the ether. I am manifesting that if there are any orgs out there that want to run specifically technical writing trainings for their employees, I have a whole course that I've put together. I've run it at a couple of conferences.
Okay.
I miss teaching. It really was my passion. Like if somebody said tomorrow, like Karen, you just won $1 million, what would you do with it? What would you still do with your life? I would probably go back to teaching, but maybe something that had more scantron because reading a lot of essays for a lot of students is a lot. But I miss it. I was really good at it. I won an award for it.
Nice.
So I would love that would be that's what I'm manifesting for 2026. I can
Nice.
do it online because I've taught online. That's what I'm manifesting for 2026. If you are an organization and you want to get your technical writers writing more, let me know and let's work together.
And we'll link what maybe your email or your website down in the description
Absolutely.
so that people can reach out to you and if they're interested in that. Very cool. Well, thank you
And they
so
can follow
much.
me on LinkedIn too. That's where I'm.
Ah,
Come join the chaos.
yes. I
Be a
love your
gremlin with
LinkedIn.
me.
Your LinkedIn is like a little slice of thank you for not being so stuffy and pretentious. You know, there's so many LinkedIns that are just so, it's either too much AI, too much FUD. It's just, a lot of crap that's out there. And
I say like LinkedIn is the pick me app.
it is. It is. And it sucks because like it is, you know what it is it's just the nature of human beings, I think.
It
That
is.
like you're always going to have some people that want to use it for the intended purpose and not make it into like, you know, what it's been made into.
And
But
I think the way that our society now, like capitalism and having to be the best at everything and having to prove your value constantly, like in terms of money as opposed to in terms of who you are as a person. I think LinkedIn is where you see that so much more. I can't imagine that every single person on LinkedIn is really the like thought leader. I hate that term too, or the expert, or the best at everything that they say they are. I'm not the best at everything. I'm a one trick pony. I am really good at writing your blogs and your white papers and your solution briefs. I do not write emails because I have not written one I would not delete. Everything I've ever written as an email, I would automatically delete myself. I'm not good at it. I
yeah.
don't sell that as a product. I don't say I'm good at it. And I feel like on LinkedIn you have to say you're good at all the things because otherwise you're not hireable anymore.
Yeah. Everybody wants everybody to do everything instead of having people that do things really well. Yeah. Well, we should I would like to invite you back. I think Stitch and Bitch should be something that we do on occasion.
I
Um
love this idea.
I
This
do.
is
I think it's fun. It'd be fun if we like I don't know, maybe had some way to let people maybe we'll try streaming. No, we do streaming.
there
No.
are a lot of knitters and
Are there a lot
crocheters.
of knitters in our
Oh my god, there's
space?
so many knitters and crocheters in InfoSec.
I'm always putting stuff up on Twitter because I don't know what to put on Twitter anymore now that everybody's gone. And so I will throw some of my yarnish stuff up on Twitter and I get a couple likes here and there and I'm always like, "Oh, somebody thought my yarn was interesting." Usually the things I put up it's like something where I feel like if they like it, they're probably like a knitter or something.
Although we should show our projects off before we leave.
So all I did was I cast on my stitches and then I had to stop because I have 132 stitches and I need to count them. And I'm that girl who's like 2, 4, 6, 8, and then I got to 50, but I don't know if 50 was correct, so I need to recount again.
Okay, these are my socks. I love this yarn. It's from Undercover Otter. Phenomenal.
I
It's not splitty or anything, but the
I
hinge
will
for
show
when you're
this.
counting stitches, when you're casting on, I like to put a stitch marker every 10.
I should have done that, but I didn't have stitch markers out and we were
Oh.
talking. But I will show this is my current work in progress, which I have to tell you for the people. So I'm a brand new knitter and I knit now because of you. I was a crocheter for years and then my hands started hurting when I was crocheting and so I could only crochet for like 5 minutes at a time and I would get like really bad cramps in here. And nothing I tried was fixing it. So like when you I gone with you to a fiber festival and the knitting, I got just like the knitting bug. I wanted to start trying knitting, which you tried to get me onto during the pandemic, but
Yeah,
it
but
was
that
just
was a
the
terrible
wrong,
video. I have
it
to
wasn't,
resend you
it
that
was
video
just,
because it was a terrible video.
it
It was
wasn't.
absolutely. I looked at it and I'm like, Jesus, no wonder she couldn't figure shit out. This was terrible.
It was just a bad timing too. I think like pandemic was a hard time to start anything, but so I have like I'm actually wearing a pair of socks that I knitted, and right now I'm making my first ever sweater. And so, yep. And so I'm super excited where we're at with it. I love this color. I'm almost done with the third color, and there's 5 on the sweater itself. And so but what I wanted to share was, oh crap. Um, the one thing I hate about knitting is dropping stitches because holy cow,
Yep.
I seem to slide them off. It is like the thing I am scared of the most is like these stitches dropping off and I just okay. So, um I have figured out that because you and I learned from you the Norwegian, the
Portuguese.
Portuguese
Yep.
knitting, and so I don't use my neck as much because I have like hot neck and it just is uncomfortable. But I use my what do you call it? But what I find is, and I'm sure like most people who do the Portuguese knitting like purling because it's so quick
Yep.
and you can purl like hella quick. So what I realized was once I got done with the yoke and all of this got put into the round, I I flipped it inside out and I have been purling all of my because it's just a stockinette. So
Yep.
I've been purling, and let me tell you what, it makes it so much faster. And then on in our little knitting group that we're in on Discord, I had won this little like wrist holder
Yep.
yarn thing. Now, Liz, if you're watching, she don't watch this, but like I initially I felt bad because I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have entered this week's giveaway because I don't really think I need one of those. I don't take my knitting anywhere. I don't leave my house. And so then I decided for whatever reason, I wanted to try it out. So I pulled it out, put it on, and I started knitting. And what I realized was I always have this issue where I usually have my yarn in like a bowl, like a yarn
Yep.
bowl or something or just sitting in between my legs and I'm constantly having to like move it and pull it and whatever. And with this, I don't have that issue. And then like downstairs where I like to sit, I put a little pin up and it sits on the wall right here behind me.
That's so smart.
It's so perfect. It's awesome. And if you're looking for one of these, this thing is super cool. I can't completely pull it off, but like yeah, it clips in and so it turns on this little swivel and this is by a small company called Lemonwood and I love it. It's got the particular one I got has like I don't think you can see it, but it's got snakes on it and I love it. But yeah, so since you were going to show your awesome socks, I wanted to show my sweater. And then I'm going back to socks after I finish the sweater
Fair enough.
because my feet are cold.
Same.
So thank you guys everybody for joining us for this stitch and bitch. I hope that we can get Karen back more than one time because this is fun and I want to do more of it. If you are a knitter or a stitcher or some other type of crafty person in the infosec field and you want to be on our podcast and come stitch and bitch with us, yeah, shoot us an email. That would be fun. We start
Thank
a
you so
whole
much for
like
having
knitting club. That would be fun. Thank you for joining us.
me. I appreciate you.
You're my favorite.
I loves you.
I loves you too.